Welcome to the Gigs Podcast. I'm your host, Nikki Sands, founder and CEO of Gigs, the professional career platform for the live event industry. On this podcast, we're interviewing the very best in the touring and live event industry to hear the good, the bad, the ugly, and the unreal moments of life gigging and lessons learned on the road. Welcome to the Gigs Podcast. We are excited to have Thomas O'Keefe, a seasoned tour manager with a long, successful career in the music industry. Thomas began his career in the late 1980s as a bass guitarist for the punk rock band ANTiSEEN. After 6 albums and tours, he switched careers to become a tour manager in 1996. He's worked with notable artists like Sia, Vince Gill, Train, Mandy Moore, Third Eye Blind, and Weezer, and traveled over 50 countries. Beyond touring, Thomas is an author, educator, speaker, and a mentor in the music business, currently working on his second book and preparing for Weezer's Blue Album 30th anniversary tour. Thomas O'Keefe, welcome to the Gigs Podcast.
Thank you. All right.
Oh my God,
that sounds exhausting hearing all that. Yeah.
We're going to get into it.
That's crazy.
Yes. So we're going to be mindful of NDAs, and so you don't have to answer what you don't want to answer.
Right.
But let's just get right into it with, can you tell me about an experience that was really memorable touring where it hit you like, wow, I get to live this life?
I mean, there's been so many, you know. I mean, like, I remember being out with the Train guys and listening to the song Drops of Jupiter in the van when it was a demo tape, and then hearing it in my brain like 6 hours later, and then 6 months later, an arena full of people singing it. You know, that's
like my karaoke
those are the moments
song.
that you just kind of, yeah, exactly. That was the most played song of the 2000s, or maybe it was the first or second most played song of that entire decade of the 2000s.
Wow.
But I mean, I remember playing in ANTiSEEN and being over in Europe in Munich and being on stage playing some song I wrote, and some kid was singing it, and the whole time I was thinking, wow, I wrote this song in South Boulevard in Charlotte, North Carolina, and 6 months later, that kid who I don't know and will never know is singing this song. That's kind of crazy. So, you know, opening the books at my house was pretty awesome, you know, after 3 years of trying to get it finished. So there's been quite a few moments like that where you're just like, wow, it's never, I will say this, it's never lost on me that anyone would get in their car and drive to a rock concert. You know, the fact that our band is playing and somebody gets in their car and drives to it, I mean, that's an amazing thing if you think about it.
It's so easy to get, you know, all this stuff can get old, and
Right.
you've been in it for so long. Like, so it's really amazing that you still have pinch me moments.
Well, it's because I there's a big mistake I made, and that is I took my favorite thing in the world and I turned it into my job. So now I have no hobbies. I have to learn how to play golf or something because I took my favorite thing and made it into my work. So
That's what you're supposed to. That's the key to success.
it is.
And then avoiding burnout. But so, okay, then I want to know what your first concert was then that kind of got you into the magic of music.
Well, actually, I mean, my first concert was, I saw the band Boston in 1979. But really my second concert when I saw Kiss, I'm of the age bracket of the stereotypical Kiss fan. I was 14 in 1978 when they were at their big peak. So that was a life-changing moment for me when I saw them.
How did you paint your face?
I didn't, but you know what I remember the takeaway from that show is I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that I was in the same building that they were in. Like, because they were like superheroes. They weren't like real people. And then, so I went to go see them several times on the last tour. Weezer opened for them in Sydney because our singer's a big fan. And I saw them like 3 or 4 times this last go round. And I went to the Indianapolis show, which was like the 4th or 5th to last show.
Right.
And I realized the first time I saw Kiss, I was 15. The last time I saw them, I was a month from turning 60. And I saw them 17 or 18 times.
And you were backstage with them.
Yes, but I couldn't even
There's
imagine
the difference.
that. Yeah, of course, right. But still, it was like, you know, I don't believe in the whole guilty pleasure list or any of that kind of stuff. Like if you like something, you like it, and who gives a shit if somebody doesn't like it, you know? And I've loved them my whole life, and I know it's stupid, but I don't care.
No, there's a reason they've had a successful career.
That's true. Yeah, because they are stupid.
Yeah.
So that's why.
That's okay. Wow. Okay. So that's your first, one of the first concerts.
Right.
And then you got into, were you playing bass by that time?
Oh, no, that came later. But
Okay.
my punk rock years playing in the band were probably like the later 80s into the late mid 90s, like mid 80s to mid 90s, like that 10-year period.
Got it.
So,
and then when did you join ANTiSEEN?
that was around
That was
time.
then.
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
So that's when you start. So
Yeah.
all right. So then you play, you tour, you hear little German children singing your music.
Right.
That's a crazy pinch me
Yeah.
moment. And then you realize, all right, I think I want to get off the road, or I want to now work
What
in it.
happened was, it's a very complex story, but basically what happened was our drummer started another band, and he said, hey, why don't you be our bass player? And I was like, I just don't have time to be in a second band. I'm working 2 jobs. I'm playing in ANTiSEEN. I'm trying to hang out with my girlfriend, who's my wife today.
No.
And so I declined it. Well, then they went and got another bass player, a much better one than me. And 8 weeks later, they were about to get a record deal. And I was like, fuck. I don't know if you can say fuck on the air, but I was losing my mind. Like I couldn't believe that I had just blown it, because this was my chance. Because this was around 1994 when the record companies were signing every alternative rock band they could find because they were making the switch from hair metal to grunge rock. So my friends were getting like offers to sign record deals, and they had only been a band for like a year or so and had barely played any shows. So all of a sudden this is happening. So they get a record deal, they go make a record, and then they call me and they're like, we want you to be our tour manager. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. And they were like, you've been doing it all along. You're the guy. I was the guy who said, we better go. It's 800 miles to Albuquerque. Let's leave. So I was just doing that job and not realizing that I was doing it. So I went and did it for them. And then their band got dropped 6 months later. And then I'm still here 27 years later. So I accidentally made the right choice.
Wow.
So it worked out.
And it did not feel like that at the time, I bet.
No.
Gosh.
Because there was about 2 weeks. And listen, instinctively, it's unlike me. If I'm friends with you, if you win the lottery, I'm happy for you. I'm not really
Totally.
jealous of other people if they have success. I'm more rooting for them. But when they were about to get a record deal, I was like, God, I blew it.
You said no.
No, I said no.
Hey, but life goes as it should.
It all worked out.
Okay, well, you realize you're pretty good at TMing, so go in that route. But before we get into the good things you've done, I want to get to your biggest fuck up that you've ever had as a tour manager.
Well, that's easy. I actually thought about that. The biggest mistake I ever made as a tour manager was sticking with a job that I hated. Because, and this is one of my proverbs, I said this, I don't know if anyone else said this, there's no house in the world or no car in the world that is worth that sick feeling in your stomach when you hate your job.
Yeah.
And there's no amount of money. And these people, like when I first started touring, every bus driver we would meet was divorced, had tax problems, drug problems. And these people were touring because they had to do it.
Right.
You never, you can't make stupid financial decisions that back you into a corner to where you have to do this.
Right.
You need to do this because you want to do it, not because you have to.
And you want to be on the road with people who want to do it.
And this is a hard job. And everyone thinks, oh, man, it sounds like you have a cool job. And I always say, you're right. It sounds like I have a cool job. But it's not. This job is not for everyone. And you can make a lot of money doing this, but you don't want to get yourself trapped to where you have to do it. I could quit my job today and I would still be alive. Everything would be fine. And I kept a job. The biggest mistake I ever made was keeping a job too long that I should have quit. Dang. But I did quit, so it all worked out. Yep.
And then you went into just kind of a new camp doing
exactly.
TMing. Okay,
Yep.
Got it. So, okay, then can we kind of get into maybe finding the right fit? how do you know, how long does it take to really get into into a new camp? You're also, as TM, building the culture of the camp, and you're the leader of it. You're
Right.
the HR, you're everything. How do you determine if someone is the right culture fit for you guys?
Well, I mean, I think, well, the first thing that I always do is hire from within. There's super nepotism because if let's say, for example, we need a guitar tech. Well, I'm not going to work with them very much because I'm the tour manager. Me and the band and me and the band live in one world and the crew lives in another world. So if we were to hire a new guitar tech, let's say, the crew are the ones that have to deal with them.
Right.
So I would rather them hire one of their friends or someone that they've worked with before.
That's smart.
But it takes a while you just have to, if I hire anyone, they have to kind of, I'm going to try to say this right. They kind of need to live by my code of ethics. You know what I mean? Like, for example, if someone says, "Oh, that's not my job. I'm not doing that," then they're done. You know what I mean? They might as well buy themselves an airplane ticket.
Yep.
I have my tolerance for millennial and Gen Z entitlement is measured in negative numbers. I have no time for any of that.
Yeah.
You're not entitled to anything.
Yes.
And if that person, that kind of goes, this speaks to like when someone young is looking for their first job. Like, here I am, the job's right behind me. All you have to do is get past me. But I'm an old Gen Xer.
Yeah.
So I think my mode of thinking and the way I see things is different from that of an entitled kid that just got out of Belmont or something. So you're not going to get me to hire you if you act that way.
Yes, and I think that's why those starting jobs, whether that be hospitality, catering, merch, those first kind of legs in are the worst jobs.
Yeah.
Because it's the longest hours. It's who sees the bigger picture,
Right.
and who's willing to do the jobs that no one wants to do.
Right.
Because those people have to lead other people.
Right.
So okay, you mentioned something already. That's not my job. Is there another thing you see someone right off the bat that just started? Maybe they're new or maybe they're a veteran. You see them do and you're like, done.
Treating people poorly.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, there's that old saying, you tells a lot about somebody, how they talk to the waitress or how they talk to the flight attendant or stagehands. I will listen. I walk out the door every night. I have my backpack or my computer bag with me, and I walk by a gaggle of stagehands walking out to the bus to leave, and I go, "Hey guys, thanks so much. See you later. Good night. See you next year."
Yes.
Because if I'm an asshole, they don't say Thomas O'Keefe, he's an asshole. They say that Weezer guy is an asshole.
Exactly.
I'm representing the band I work for. So when you're incompetent or you're a jackass, that people blame your band for that, which is unfair because they're not the ones doing it.
Totally.
But it's just important to treat other people fairly and be nice and considerate and all of those kind of things. But what I was going to say is the Gen Z, the young people don't realize something that happened because during the pandemic, and that is they are getting an artificial bump right now because here's what happened. If you think about it, and I'm talking about this as a generalization, but it's mostly true. If you look at a band and look at the core crew, meaning the guitar techs and the sound man, tour manager, that little group of people, they're the same age.
Right.
You know, I used to be 50-something. All my guys are 50-something. All my guitar techs are pushing 50-something.
Yes.
I wouldn't hire a kid because a kid would get chewed up and spit out in 15 minutes. If you go see the Rolling Stones, the guy tuning Keith Richards' guitar is probably 70 years old.
Yeah.
He's been doing it for 50 years. So the level of experience, it has to be the core crew and the band guys need to be kind of at the same level.
Yes.
You can take a young kid and put them out with a baby band in a van and trailer and ride around because none of them are experienced.
Right.
But with the pandemic, what happened was a lot of these bands at the very top, the oldest rock bands, their crew guys were all within a year or two of retiring anyway. So they quit.
Yes.
So now those bands are trying to poach people from me because we're the next generation.
Wow.
You see what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like I had Kiss try to steal our guitar tech like a year ago.
Gosh.
You know, and I was like, I wouldn't blame you if you did it, but I have a feeling that our career is going to last a lot longer than theirs is over.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
last year.
Yeah.
So my point is that everybody's getting one bump up. So the kid who starts off right now at the very bottom is getting offered jobs, you know, that are a little bit higher up.
And a little higher salary than any of us made.
But also, that is where they make a mistake. And that is the worst. I put this on the list here, and this was worst advice. Fake it till you make it.
Oh, interesting.
That is a bunch of bullshit.
Oh, let's get into that.
Because I'll give you a great example. So I got a call in 1999 to tour manage Kid Rock.
Okay.
And the biggest tour I had ever done was one bus. No truck, no nothing, one bus.
Oh, gosh.
And Kid Rock was blowing up, and I Want to Be a Cowboy Baby was on the radio every day, and he was just full blast, exploding.
Wow.
And some guy called me and wanted me to do that job, and I said no. And I didn't have a job at the time.
Wow.
Because I was smart enough to say no. If somebody offers you a job that is above you, you cannot fake it till you make it, because that I send you home 2 days later.
Exactly.
Then you're the person who worked for Kid Rock for 48 hours.
And no one forgets that.
And no one forgets that. So you can't, you know, if you want to like really work hard at something and try to move up a little bit, there's nothing wrong with that. So everybody does that. But this whole fake it till you make it thing is horseshit, because I've been doing this for 27 or 30 years, and I can tell if you're faking.
Yeah.
And then you go home and I hire, because occasionally I make a mistake and hire the wrong person.
How do you know if you are faking it? How do you know if you're like, oh my gosh, I really don't know what I'm doing? How do you know if you're how to get more help, and how, you know, too many questions are too many questions? How do you know if someone can be a good mentor?
Well, I think it just, you just have to kind of feel it out and see, you know, there are young people who, there's nothing wrong with asking a million questions. I consult people when I go to my crew when I have questions. If I don't know the answer, it's not my job. I always have this saying, it's not my job to think of the best idea. It's my job to implement the best idea. So if your idea is better than mine, I want to do your idea.
Totally.
I get zero. My ego has no role in this.
Yeah.
I want to do the best idea. If a homeless person tells me a better idea than mine, I'll steal their idea. I don't care.
Love that.
So you know, I think the bathroom mirror always tells you the truth. Ooh. Like, you know, if you're in over your head a little bit,
Yes.
you know.
I think that first tour, I think, at least my experience, I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But then again, I was starting out at the very bottom rung.
Right.
So if you're taking something that is totally beyond what you're capable of, that's really interesting.
Yeah, like if the Rolling Stones called me tomorrow and said, we want you to be the production manager of our stadium tour, I would say, no, I can't do it. I would recommend some other people that I know could do it.
Yeah.
But I would say no. Now, if they said, we want you to tour manage Ron Wood, I could do that. But I couldn't, I'm not a structural engineer.
Know your capabilities.
Know your capabilities, and don't say yes to something, even if you need the money and even if you don't have a job, say no.
What if you really need the money and something is totally below your rate, and you're used to this, if you're used to certain venues, you're used to a certain size of tour, but you're just needing to take anything that comes your way.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people do that. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all pirates to some extent, you know, and I'm much further along in my career. My career is like coasting down, you know, you see what I mean? Like I'll finish. We'll see how much longer I work. I have no aspirations to retire, but I also, if Weezer's at home, if we're off for 4 months, I stay home for 4 months. Now, whereas all my crew go and look for other jobs, and they are constantly working their schedule around what we're doing, and they go work. All of them have one or two other artists they work for. because I used to work with Mandy Moore.
Yes.
And I'm probably the only person who made a record with Gigi Allen and also did Mandy Moore's homework when she was 15.
Oh my gosh.
But
oh my gosh.
But Mandy's mom always used to say, you have to make hay while the sun is shining. And if you're working if you work for one artist and you have 6 months off and you go work for someone else, I mean, if you have to take less money, but it's the only thing you can find, it's better than sitting at home doing nothing.
Okay, what do you, as tour manager, how do you manage your tour? You guys have 4 months off. Your guys are going to go and work other gigs.
It's hard.
How do you secure them? And then if you can't, where do you go?
Well, we have, luckily, me and my production manager, we know a lot of people. So we have people. If you've worked with us once, you're in my phone. I don't delete numbers out of my phone. So if someone's worked with us once before and like we need a drum tech for one day or we need a guitar tech for one day, it's kind of piecemeal. We have to, if we're off and have 4 months off. I was a piecemeal once. That's right. You were one of them too, because that was a weird little one-off. Yeah. It wasn't a tour date.
Right. Well, that's easier if you can just fly someone in, but for an actual tour.
Well, then for the tour, all the regular people want to do it.
Right.
So we finding someone to do the tour is usually pretty easy because it's a lot of work, but finding someone to do one private, somewhere on a Tuesday is sometimes hard.
That's what we want to that's what I live for. I like me some one-offs. I'm going to create something in gigs of, just doing one-offs.
Well, I mean, and also what helps too is that our production manager is formerly from the country music world. So he knows, like I live here and I've lived in Nashville for 11 years, but I have zero connection to the country music business. Quite honestly, I'm not really a fan of that music. So
there you go. Okay.
And that's me being super nice.
That was really nice.
Yeah. If I wanted to say it more like working for one of those bands would be like working at the dog pound. Like I just can't do it. It's just like the worst job in the world.
Heard. Okay. Well,
that's more along. That's what
music wise.
Right.
What about schedule wise? Do you like the idea of weekend warrior in country?
No, I don't. No, I would, full disclosure, I've never really done it, but here's why I wouldn't like it, because if I go out on tour, it takes me a few days to spool up to become the person I am, because I have to be responsible for everything and I have to put myself in that frame of mind. So if I'm sitting in line at my daughter's school picking her friends up on Thursday, and then Friday I have to be in charge of this giant show and be at the top of my game, and next Monday I'm back in the school pickup line or whatever. I mean, it's just the going back and forth seems kind of hard.
It's a trick.
Yeah.
It's like, you get to be home more, but then you have to do your own laundry. You got to do all the things and get your life together and work while you're home.
Right.
And then, so it's interesting. I mean, because you have a wife and a daughter.
Right.
And so, okay, can we talk about how you manage that whole, actual personal life? We know that in this industry, that's difficult when you're gone for months at a time, especially in rock and pop. Right. How did you manage that dating, marriage, having a kid with this being, in your blood?
We just did it and it just worked and that was fine. I'm sure my wife is happy for me to go away here and there, and not be home all the time. Yeah. But, I mean, quite honestly, I have one daughter, and I probably, had Hey Soul Sister not been a big hit and I was gone all those couple of years, maybe I would have had a second kid. I don't know. Wow. So it definitely back then was hard because it's like my wife turns into a single mom during the summer, but it goes back and forth. But I'm also home for extended periods of time where if I even had a normal job, I mean, I'm all the way home. So it's fine. It's worked out.
What's the longest period of time you've been gone from home?
Maybe 8 or 9 weeks, probably.
Oh, I thought you were going to say months.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I mean, now that's not now Train, when Hey Soul Sister wasn't really a hit, it was more like a global phenomenon that wouldn't stop. And from the 1st of March until Christmas of 2010, I was never home one time for more than 7 days. because we went to Europe, we went to South America once or twice, Japan, Australia, the US several times. Oftentimes we would only have 1 or 2 days off just so the gear could fly from one side of the earth to the other.
Oh my gosh.
So that we could make
Wow.
it, you know.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, people don't realize it, but really that band was by far the hardest working band in the music business, especially back in those days, because the singer could sing every single day. We would do 10 or 15 shows in a row with him singing like Robert Plant every night.
Right.
And he was better on the 15th night than he was on the first night.
What kind of crazy drugs you got back? Like, how does that happen?
He's just one of the he was one of the greatest singers of that period of time. And, you know, a lot of people might discount Train and go, oh, it's, you know, secretary rock or whatever. No. But they were, like, he is like a world class. He's a singer in the same vein as like Steven Tyler or Robert Plant. And I say that knowing what I'm saying.
Oh, wow.
Like, he could really sing. Like, I've seen him sing with the flu and have a better show than most people would dream of having.
Wow.
So
I saw him last year at Ascend. It blew my mind because
he's an unbelievable singer.
Meet Virginia. I mean, all that girl. It's just like, oh, you forget how many hits they had. I mean, like we
had so many. We would have 5 shows in a row, and a day off, and then they would call and say, "Can you guys do this show on the middle days?" We'd have 11 in a row. So it was, and we had to come up with a plan to kind of pay the crew extra for different events. So we came up with this whole system where if we worked more than, say, 7 days in a row with no days off, everyone got paid double. And if we did 2 shows in one day, everybody got. So every week when I'd have to do the payroll, it was like, people would get paid for 10 or 12 days for 1 week because we were doing so much stuff.
Well, okay, that kind of goes into what I wanted to get into with morale. How do you keep, that's one way, paying them. Yeah. Hell yeah, that's a good way to keep morale high. Are there other ways as leader of the tour, as tour manager, that you keep morale high when you're gone, when things are tough, when it's hot, when you're doing shows you don't want to do, when the venues don't have everything you need?
Well, I mean, there are ways, there are always those shows where, you know, you're at some festival and you've got some crappy trailer and it's 98 degrees and you're in Austin, Texas or somewhere like that. But I mean, I think just the way to keep morale up is be mindful. There are a lot of tour managers who worry about the band and don't worry about the crew. And if the crew are the ones that have to, if we're going to do the Today Show, the crew are the ones that have to be there at 1 o'clock in the morning and load in and not go to bed tonight and stay up all night. And we probably have a show tonight as well. So I just think taking care of the crew is the key, because they're doing the grunt work. The band, you know, in whatever, maybe you have to, obviously you got to keep them going and make sure no one's not sick or make sure they're getting sleep or whatever. But really taking care of the crew, because then the morale gets bad if they're being treated poorly. How
can you tell when a crew is starting to get frustrated?
Well, I'm the last to know, because I'm not with them, you know, but I'm counting on my production manager to notify me of those kinds of things, but way before they fester into some problem.
Yeah.
I've worked with different bands where you'd have a crew where half of them are in one camp and half of them are in the other, and that's not good. You know, we always try to fix that. But I had worked with a different band once, and a lot of the crew were drinking all the time, and you just have to like lay down the law. You can't I have no problem with people drinking after the door of the truck is closed and we're all off work. But you can't be drinking when we're trying to do this. I mean, it's a big responsibility putting on a rock concert with 20,000 people. Thunderstorm comes in, and what do? You know, that is the big responsibility.
What do you do? Let's get into that.
Well, I'm not saying this to brag, but because it's just simply true. But all I really did, and one thing I did in my life by accident, I'm not claiming that I did this on purpose, but what I did was I found a job that utilizes my skills. And if I'm in a crisis, if there's a problem, my brain, my wife calls it Mr. Fix-It, but my brain immediately switches gears and I solve the problem. I'm better at that than anybody.
That's the description
and if
of tour
there's a
manager.
line of thunderstorms coming, I've been watching that shit all day long because I'm keenly aware of that. I've had a couple shows I've had to cancel bands. I've had to move shows to the next day. I mean, that's the part of this job that sucks, is the weather, being outside, thunderstorms.
Yeah.
So.
And what have you ever dealt with so extreme weather? Have there been other like extreme events, different like bomb threats, anything?
Well, I think we had a show get messed up because of Hurricane Sandy years ago, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, we did shows Train did shows right after 9/11. There was no one at the shows.
Whoa.
We did a show in Vegas like a week after 9/11 at the Thomas Mack Center. We were opening for Matchbox 20. This is about a week after 9/11. And the show was sold out, and there were 1,500 people there. Because nobody came because nobody wanted to fly.
Wow.
So it was kind of crazy.
How long did it last like that?
It was several weeks. Vegas really suffered bad because that town just counts on people flying in and flying out.
Wow.
And they, we canceled all our shows that week. And then, because what do? You didn't realize when that shit was happening, you didn't know, 9/11's happening. You didn't know it because it was happening.
Wow.
But it was a rough couple days for sure. But we were on tour with Matchbox 20, and that was when Drops Jupiter was big and all the shows were sold out. And it was weeks before that got back to normal. And then of course COVID was a giant monkey wrench.
Yeah. How was getting back out? First of all, did you want to go back out? Were you like, thank God I can go back out?
I didn't. In January of 2000, to be honest, in January of 2020, I go and buy a sports car. And then a couple weeks later, I spend a fortune, like an embarrassingly large amount of money to renovate my kitchen in my house, right?
No.
Like a lot. And then I find out like a week later that I'm not going to work for like 15 months, So thankfully my wife is not in this business. So we were able to survive. But yeah, I mean, COVID was rough. And some of my crew have couples where the husband and the wife are both in this business. So it's not like I could go work for some other band because I picked the worst job in the world for COVID. But
they're like, all right, we're good. We're chilling. We're not trying to go back out.
We're not doing anything. So
wow.
We went back out the summer of 2021.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So that's when we went back out. But we were supposed to go out the summer of 2020. So
yeah, that was. I mean, it's crazy how long it lasted. And I mean, going back out was also kind of a nightmare with just all the policies, and working a 90-degree show with a mask on is like, all right, I think I'm going to quit. I don't think this is fun.
Or having to walk through, I mean, when you're what if you have to go to front of house and you have to walk through an audience of 5,000 or 10,000 people, like cutting through a crowd of people to get out front.
You don't know if that's the super spreader event. I mean, it's crazy to think it's been 4 years. But do you foresee it kind of continuing at the same pace as it is right now?
I know from my perspective, it seems, I mean, I guess it just exists now, and it's sort of maybe, I'm not a scientist obviously, but maybe it's akin to getting the flu or whatever. And now it's just part of our lives, I guess.
Yes.
But it was no fun when it first happened because especially when you were waiting to get the vaccine and wondering, it was just pretty terrible.
We're not, all right, we're done with COVID. Enough of that. We're not, I want to get into, do you have any traditions that you have for yourself or for your crew on the road? Any? We always do with the Weezer guys. We always, when we did a lot of shows with the Foo Fighters, we would always go out to dinner with them on a night off. And so now we always try to go out to dinner with whatever band we're touring with if we have a night off, especially at the beginning of the tour week. That's kind of our current tradition. But I mean, I would think like remembering restaurants you went to. Oh, last time I was in Sydney, I went to this place and it was awesome, or whatever. So we rarely go anywhere new. It's been many years since I've gone somewhere I hadn't been before. Where is a place you are waiting to go? A venue you're waiting to play, country?
I mean, you start to run out of them, but I've never been to India, and I've only been to one city in China. So there's probably several places in China I've not been. And I've never been to the pyramids. I'd like to do that, but maybe not right now in the world. Maybe I'll wait till that mess gets settles down a little bit.
That's a wife trip.
Yeah.
That's one where you can actually enjoy. So when you're going touring around the world, do you get to enjoy the cities? Do you get to enjoy Europe or Asia when you're actually there?
Yes. Well, it really depends on the schedule. Like, for example, on this particular UK trip we're getting ready to do, I'm flying over a couple days early, going to Ireland, messing around for a couple days. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
But it really just depends. You know, you might go to London and have 4 days off, or you might go to London and be there one night and have to go somewhere else the next day.
Right.
So it really just depends on how the schedule is and where the days off are.
And it's not up to you. It is up to management and booking.
Well, the management booking agency, right. They're the ones who put the tour together. And then I look at it and figure out here's what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah. You know.
What's your least favorite continent to tour in?
South America. That's
why?
easy. Oh. Because every time you go to catering and eat, it's like flipping a coin. Am I going to get sick? Yep.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I did the last time I was in South America? I drank Diet Cokes and ate candy bars the entire time, and I gained like 15 pounds, and I was like, fuck it. I do not care. Because I don't want to get sick and throw up. Because I had dudes that would eat catering. They'd go to the hotel and they'd throw up in their bed at night and roll around in it.
Oh my gosh!
Like it's disgusting.
Do you have this on
the traffic is the worst.
Oh my gosh!
The traffic there, and listen. If the roof of this building came off and a beam of light came down and God said, Thomas O'Keefe, you're going to live to be 95 and you never have to go to South America ever again, I'd be like, shake on it. Like it's
so when are you going next? Do you know?
Maybe next year, we'll see. But I mean, there are places there that are nice, like Buenos Aires is a really cool town, and Santiago is really cool. There are a few places, but like I had a guy in Sao Paulo, Brazil, try to mug me at like 2:00 in the afternoon while I was walking down the road. And it was a small dude. And I'm a bigger dude. And he grabbed me and screaming at me in Portuguese, had something under his shirt, like he was going to stab me or something. And I was just like, ugh.
No.
Like, it was ridiculous.
Oh, have you had, so it's South America, have you had that in other places where you're on the job, you're working, and, you know, people are just trying to
We would have security. Like, we did a tour, Train did a tour with Shakira in South America. And she had this giant stage and, you know, had this big thrust that came out. She would get down on the ground level and walk around the barricade and stuff. And she's singing, and there was a guy behind her with a big camera. It was up on the video walls, you know, and she's like singing the song, and she's slapping hands with all these people. And some dude goes, whoop, and pulled her diamond ring off her hand.
Oh my gosh.
And they got it back the next day.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm willing to bet $1 or $2. That guy's not alive anymore. Like, they killed him. Like, this happened in like Bogota, Colombia. Like, you don't want to do stuff wrong there.
Yeah.
Like this is like not like doing something wrong on Broadway.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, it's just
it's
rough. I mean, the traffic down there is terrible. Those cities, like Sao Paulo, Brazil, has 1,500 buildings that are over 40 stories.
Oh my gosh.
Like, it is just this massive sprawl. Like, these cities are way bigger than New York or LA. Like, they're just these massive cities, and they all have super bad traffic. And
like,
we would take helicopters to fly places because we couldn't, the traffic was too bad.
Oh my God. That's a problem solver right there.
Yeah.
Well, okay, what's the one country that you're so excited to go to for work?
I mean, I love Italy. There's a lot of places in Europe I love. I love Sydney, Australia is great. Like, I would move there if I could. We played a show. We did a train show or private one time in Bora Bora. That was pretty awesome.
Oh my gosh.
You know, that was pretty great. I would go there again.
Yeah.
If there's a better place than there, I don't know where it is.
Truly.
Like, it's
perks of the job.
It's a great place.
You see a lot of basements, you see a lot of inside and concrete floors, but sometimes you see Bora
But for
Bora.
every Bora Bora, there's like 10 Toledos, so it doesn't really balance out.
Yeah.
So the days that you're in Bora Bora, you're like, wow, I can't believe I'm here.
Does that make it worth it, or what about it makes it worth it to you? What makes you still excited to put in all the dates in Master Tour and start the next leg?
Well, you know what I think it is? I always use this analogy. Think about a lawyer. Like, what lawyer makes the most money? Not the kid lawyer that's right out of law school. The old gray-haired dude lawyer makes the most money. You see what I mean? So if you're going to work all the way to the point where you get yourself to where you're like an A-list person dealing with that, why would you quit now?
Right.
That seems kind of foolish.
Right.
So these are the years you're supposed to do it. So that's
True.
why I don't have any... like I said, I have no long-term aspiration to retire. I'm just kind of...
You're riding it.
I'm just going to see how it goes.
Great.
I mean, maybe one day I will. I guess it just, I don't know how my health is going to hold up. We'll see. It's a mystery.
That's a great, I when I was on the road, it was so hard to stay healthy. There was really hardly any good routine.
Right.
Because you're just, on your feet all day, but then you're eating maybe 4 meals because you got to eat at the after show food.
You're early in the morning, and it's like a day and a half of a day. I mean, I just think you have to force yourself, because see, what happens is on days off, I'm in my hotel room on the phone all day long.
Right. Yeah.
I remember one time I was in Paris with Train. This was 10, 15, 12 years ago. And we woke up early in the morning, and we went and did a radio station thing. And we got back to the hotel at like 10 in the morning. We were done, and we had the rest of the day off. So those guys were all exhausted, and they were jet lagged and just burned out. So they slept. So I was like, all right, I'm going to get a lot of shit done today. So I walked down the street to some convenience store, bought a bunch of coffee and candy bars, a bunch of crap, went back to my room, turned the air conditioning down to 40, closed the windows, turned on CNBC, and I just started powering through a bunch of Europe shit. So I worked from like 10 to 5. So I was like, all right, good. Well, I'm going to go get something to eat. So I went and got something to eat. I came back and I was like, it's only noon in the U.S. Sweet. So I powered through another 6 hours worth of shit. And then it was really late at night, and I was like, it's going to be 10 a.m. in Sydney in 2 hours.
Stop.
Like, I was like, I could just work 24 hours because we were all over the world, so we had to.
So that's the little secret about the role of tour manager is you don't get times off.
No, I have to say, my crew guys will call me, hey, do you want to go to dinner, blah, blah, blah. I say no a lot of times. They still ask, thankfully,
tough.
But
yeah.
it's just the nature of the job. It's just because typically if you're the tour manager, you're also the tour accountant.
Right.
And doing the accounting for this tour and all this money coming in and coming out and all these buses and trucks and receipts and per diems and all the crap. That in itself is a big job, and you can't really do it during the day because you're too busy with calling everybody else.
Totally.
So
then what are some qualities of people just getting into this industry? What are qualities in people you'll see right away that that person's going to be successful?
There is a quality that I see immediately in some people. Very few people, and it's like they call it if you're in the movie business or whatever, and I don't have a better term for it, but you can just tell if somebody is ambitious, is smart, is void of entitlement, and really wants to do it. Like I always remember Lemmy from Motorhead said, the people that do this are not the people that want to do it, it's the people that have to do it.
Interesting.
So, and paying attention and listening to older people, paying attention and soaking it all in.
Right.
And I've met these people before, and I see them, and they almost have like an evil gleam in their eye. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I've hired these people before, but you don't see them that often. Unfortunately, there's probably more people that want to do this versus people that maybe should be doing it.
Well, and that's why I feel like it's always been this word of mouth. It's hard to get in. You got to know somebody because it's such a cool job that so many people think it's a party. It's this, is a very hard job.
Right.
And so how do you, I guess if you could warn someone from getting into this industry, what is the worst part about the job?
Well, it's being gone. Your wife calls you and tells you that the cat died and you can't fly home. That sucks. Your daughter has her 4th birthday and you miss it, or you're FaceTiming her or whatever. I mean, there's a million. I've missed weddings, funerals, dance recitals, beach trips. I mean, a lot of stuff, because the job is, if we have to go from here to here, I have to go do it. I can't say, well, I'm unavailable, blah, blah, blah,
do you think that'll change, or do you think that will stay the same?
I think that's just the nature of it.
Yeah.
Because you can't go out on tour unless you go out on tour. And if you're out on tour and your mom calls you and said your dad fell and broke his leg, you can't fly home, or the show must go on kind of thing. And so it's always exciting to go somewhere the first time, and it's never exciting to go the 11th time. So
when the venue managers know you real well on your bad days.
That's the good part too, is because all I do is ride around and see the same 40 people every summer. Because I know all those people from all these years,
And is a good way to kind of really make yourself be fully into this industry is kind of becoming family and making this industry, becoming friends with this industry?
Well, I mean, I've always thought, I worked for a band, it'll remain nameless, where the singer promoted the idea, and it's not in the band I work with today.
Yeah.
The singer promoted the idea of being a dick to everybody. He wanted the tour manager to be a dick and be an asshole to everyone.
Wow.
And this band had a lot of big hits in the early 2000s. And they got a bad reputation because when you go out on tour in the US, you're just going to see the same 40 people every year. And all of us grow up. And it's like I ride around and see the same people that I've known for 25 years because we all grew into our roles.
Right.
And, when you're an asshole and make everyone's day terrible that day, a year later, when that band comes back to whatever place they're playing, and you go, do I have to work that show? I don't want to do that. So my objective is much different. I want to come here, do the show. I'm not going to let the promoter take advantage of us, or not. They have to meet their obligations. But at the end of the day, I want them to have had a good time. Everybody wins. The kids all came to the show and we're all happy. And the promoter's like, woo, can't wait till you guys come back next year. And we work hard to make sure that happens.
It's very important. You get way nicer people working locally when that's the case.
You catch more flies with honey than you do salt, or whatever the saying is. It's just
true.
And but this same band that I was talking about, they're not as big as they should be because all the people that would help them have grown into bigger jobs.
Wow.
But they also have memories, and they're like, why would I help those guys? They were assholes to me 20 years ago.
Is it true that when an artist is awful, their crew is great, and vice versa, or no?
I think to kill the snake, you got to cut the head off, So I think if the crew is off, I wouldn't
Trickle
have
down.
anybody in my crew that was awful.
Yeah, and you wouldn't work for awful people.
Right, I would never work for awful people. No, and that's when I was a kid, I had to take whatever jobs I could get. But I mean, now in my life, I would never work if Weezer took 2 years off and I was looking for another job. I would never work with someone that I hated,
right?
Which takes away almost every single buddy in this town, and then except for maybe one or two, and or somebody that just was rotten. It's just life's too short to have a terrible job.
Life's too short to have a terrible job. I want to go into rapid fire with you.
Okay.
It's just quick, first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Are you ready? Here we go. After show food, pizza or sandwiches?
There's a place called the Yard House. They don't have it here in Nashville, but it's a chain. They have it everywhere.
Yeah.
We always go for that.
For pizza? Or is it sandwiches? Or is it both?
They actually have these things called voodoo tacos or something.
I've heard of this.
So good.
Yes.
Yeah. And I thankfully, if they had one here, I would probably be like this
in trouble.
big. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Favorite venue?
I know everybody goes, oh, Red Rocks, blah, blah, blah. But that place sucks. I mean, it's hard to get in there. It's hard. You can't play somewhere the night before because you have to be there and cross load everything.
Got it.
I would say my favorite venue is the Greek Theater in Taormina, Sicily, where I'm going in a couple weeks. And Train played there once and did an Italian TV show there once. It's 500 years older than the Coliseum.
Wow.
And they do concerts there.
Fully operational.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
it's
exciting.
Pretty crazy.
Okay. Bus, top, middle, or bottom bunk?
Well, we have condo.
Oh. Top or bottom condo?
Sorry, we're too bougie for that. So yeah, I would have a condo bunk and probably take the bottom condo bunk.
Roll in, roll out. Are you driver's side?
Front driver's side.
Front driver's side.
Yeah. But I used to, you know why I did that is because all the early buses I had, the buses used to have the little phone in there.
Oh,
so you
God.
could call the driver, where are we? Without getting
Oh, my
up.
gosh.
So I instinctively, and that's what the bunk that always had that phone in it. So I think that's why
Why did we get rid of that?
I don't know.
Driver's seat.
I actually had, we were back in those days, you used to have little TVs in the bunks too, but they got rid of those too because everybody's using their phone. Yeah.
True. I remember I was in a condo bunk for like a couple months and I was like, this is the life. I could read a book in there.
Yeah.
Oh, it was unreal.
Yeah.
I didn't belong there, but I was soaking it in. First album you ever bought?
Ooh, Kiss Destroyer.
There we go. Yeah. Oh my gosh. If they didn't stop, you might have to. Okay, here we go. Best decade of music.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't know because there's so many good 70s, so many good 80s, so many good, there's good ones now. I would be hard for me to pick one.
If you could play a genre of music, if you were in a band right now, what genre would that be?
Oh, I would just play in my band. I punk rock. That's what I know, and that's so.
Are you gonna? Oh, you just played with them, right?
Yeah.
Anniversary show.
Right, exactly.
Love that. What's your karaoke song?
I only have done karaoke once, and it was "Highway to Hell" by AC/DC, but it was pretty good. I pulled it off.
I can see that. You used to have the long hair.
Right. I had your haircut.
Yeah. I love it. What's your bus snack? Is it a candy bar and a Diet Coke?
No, that's only South America. Let me make this. They probably Macallan 12.
That's put that on your rider.
That's my bus snack. Yeah.
And lastly, on the rapid fire, if you weren't a tour manager, what would you be doing?
That's a good question. I never thought of that. I don't know because I don't know where I would work.
Author. You're okay.
Yeah, I'm an author. So
you're writing your second book.
But don't count on that for like to live off of. Yeah.
What are you writing right now?
Well, the second book I'm working on, the first book is called Waiting to Derail. It's about my period of time when I tour managed Ryan Adams' band Whiskey Town. Awesome. It's a very linear sort of almost tour diary sort of book. It starts in 1997 when I got the job and it ends in later 2000. So It's just that 3-year period. The second book, which is still in its like embryonic stages, it's going to be kind of a life lessons from a life of rock and roll sort of thing. I think that's what it's going to be. It's not really going to be an autobiography, even though it might seem like that, but it's more like, here's what I learned from doing this crap for the last 30 years.
We need more content like that. Yeah. Because there really isn't enough. That's why we wanted to start this podcast. There's not enough content about really what it takes to be on the road. And especially, I really think it's important to honor your generation and the generation above you that kind of birthed touring and what it is now. Well,
the people before me are the ones who truly invented it. Like when I first started, the early bus drivers, these were the guys who started it, and did a lot of shenanigans you wouldn't believe. But I mean, what I would say I don't know how this happened or why this happened, but at a young age, I realized, and I don't know who taught me this, but I wish I could thank whoever it was. When I was young, I realized if someone was older, smarter, further along, richer, whatever word you want to use than me, and they were talking to me, I shut the fuck up and paid attention to every word they had to say. So this, like, when I read these young people going, oh, okay, boomer, like that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of in my whole life.
Yeah, it was because everyone thinks that they have
They've already figured it out.
a degree, and that means that they're smart.
Oh no, this town churns out a bunch of them, you know, and they think they're going to be Doc McGee an hour after they graduate, and they end up working at Taco Mamacita. So I got a job on Music Row.
Welcome to Nashville. Y'all come.
Thanks. I just paid $400,000 to work at Taco Mamacita.
I think that's a really cool way, perfect way to end this episode of that advice of, you know, if you're thinking in your head, okay, boomer, that person knows so much more than you.
Well, then, but also when you meet someone like that, you should be thankful because that person's never going to steal your job. You know, meeting dumb people is pretty awesome because you're like, woo, that guy's never going to take my job. That's one less obstacle.
Thomas O'Keefe,
Right.
thank you so
You're
much for
very
being
welcome.
on the Gigs podcast.
All right.
You're the best.
Thank you.